morning, everybody, and welcome to the Plant Protein Alliance of Alberta's Innovation in Agtech, Drones and Robots webinar. Please introduce yourself in the chat window. If you could please put your name and where you're from and what you're most interested in learning about today. We'd like to get to know you a little bit better, and it gives us a good idea of who's attending. As you can see just to the right, we have a schedule of what's going to happen today. So I'm going to hop right into some introductions of our guest speakers and who you can expect to hear from today. So my name is Chris Glass. I'm a marketing specialist, and I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. Shannon Snaden is also a marketing specialist, and she'll be handling the breakout room portion. Handling our Q&A today is our communications director, Barb Wilkinson. And our three guest speakers, George, Yevgen, and Alex, are from Olds College, and they're going to talk to you about their background and what they're doing in robots and drones. Before we turn it over to our guest speakers, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Plant Protein Alliance of Alberta, who we are, what our mission is, what our vision is, and how you can get a little bit more in touch with us if you have more questions or you want to buy a membership and get involved. We are fairly new to the nonprofit space, starting in 2018, but we've made a significant impact so far. What we're working to do is growing the plant and plant protein processing industry in Alberta and building awareness of what is available in our province in this space. Super important because most of our, currently right now, we export most of our agricultural products unprocessed to places like China and the US. And there's a great opportunity to do a lot of that here in Alberta. So that's what we're hoping to do. And we've got some great speakers from Olds College to tell you about that today. In 2019, we held 13 networking events, and in place of those networking events in this new COVID world, we're looking at holding more webinars. So our members have felt these had good value, and we're hoping that you do too. We also have a monthly newsletter that we'd like to recommend everybody sign up for. It includes member highlights, industry events, and stories on what's going on in the space and what's new in the industry. And if you're interested in becoming a member, we have a special promotion right now where you can receive 3 extra months with the purchase of an annual membership. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our guest speakers, George, Yevgen, and Alex from Olds College. Gentlemen, take it away.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about pretty interesting, cool stuff. You know, in the ag industry, we're always expecting an easy button. So you press the button and the system does everything for you.
My point is the agricultural industry is very challenging, and behind the nice shiny picture when you see robots and satellites and drones, this is hard work. And we're going to share some information how we integrate that. Who we are, let's just introduce ourselves.
Okay, it's my turn. All right. My name is Yevgen. Originally, I'm from Ukraine. I'm 36. I'm an instructor and a course developer of GIS systems, drones, telematics, and power platform here in the Olds College. Also, I have a practice and projects across the world, like in Australia, Eastern Asia, Europe, Ukraine. So, that's it.
My name is George Gaeke. I am the also instructor here at Olds College in land use planning and mostly GIS. And I also, for the last 2 years, have been leading up the drone or remotely piloted aircraft systems. That's what RPAS stands for, and that's what Transport Canada calls it. So I've been leading up that team for 2 years here and spent a lot of my summer out in the fields with drones.
I'm Alex Melnichuk. I'm Chief Technology Officer at the college. So what is the Smart Farm? It's a relatively new initiative. It's about 2-3 years old.
Smart Farm, it's an actual commercially operating farm in central Alberta and belongs to the Old College. It's about 2,000 acres of arable land, hay fields, and pasture. And the main purpose of the Smart Farm is to be able to demonstrate leading-edge technologies, to bring different technologies from around the world, the best ones in the world, to utilize this land base for developing new leading-edge technologies, and of course, demonstrate that as a part of our academic process. So what we're sharing with you today is just a small part of what we're doing. There are many cool things happening here on the Smart Farm of the college. Recently, in a very short period of time, we started implementing many new tools, empowering livestock specialists, agronomists, engineers. So we're working on the projects on using thermal imagery for assessing the health of livestock, thermal imagery for analyzing stress and crop conditions. We have a number of field sensors recording field information real time. We utilize drone and satellite imagery. Actually, what you see on the screenshot is satellite monitoring, is actual hyperspectral image of the Smart Farm and town of Falls, taken by a sensor from the International Space Station. And of course, one of the central points of our Smart Farm activities is around robotics and autonomous equipment. Now it's Yevgen's part. He will start explaining what the DOT platform is.
Okay, can you change them? All right. Okay, guys. So the DOT platform, you probably heard it from somewhere, like a newspaper. It started its own career in 2017, and DOT is an autonomous power platform that consists of U-shaped platform itself, an engine, Cummins engine with a 173 horsepower, and three implements like DOT sprayer, spreader, and seeder. You probably heard that DOT Corporation was purchased by Raven Technology. They call themselves as Raven Autonomy in March 2020. So DOT became a part of Raven Autonomy. So if you want to follow, or you can want to see any updates or any news about the DOT, you better go to the Raven Autonomy website.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Yevgen. And just going back to my point, how much hard work we need to put before any field equipment can operate. Of course, DOT is very new for us. DOT is very new for us. So before you will be able to use that platform in the field, everything starts with creating precise georeferenced field boundaries. So the reason for that, we cannot utilize just satellite or drone imagery for digitizing fields. There are a couple of reasons. DOT platform requires very accurate field boundaries for operational purposes, and another reason is the legal one. So we need to make sure that the autonomous vehicle will not hit a utility pole or a sensor or anything else in the field. So what you see here on the screen is on the left-hand side is the field boundary that is being created by the mapping vehicle, and we actually have to drive around the field using the RPAS GPS signal. And of course, before we can apply any product, either seed or crop protection chemicals or fertilizer, we should provide the autonomous vehicle with the information, what exactly needs to be applied. So the first operation that we're going to demonstrate is seeding, and of course we can utilize either a field boundary to create a prescription file for flat rate seeding, or different types of soil maps for or biomass or seed or yield maps to create variable rate maps for seeding using zone approach. And here's our first video. Big credit to Yevgen. He spent a lot of days and hours in the field capturing the video of how this process works. So let's take a look and enjoy it.
Awesome. That's so cool. A Canadian video like that is so inspirational. Now, switching to George, because during the growing season we have to make a number of decisions, and many of those decisions they come from their own technology.
All right. So drones are one of the tools that we use here to create maps that are then pumped into the DOC platform for different activities. Drones have been getting a lot of attention lately. They are interesting and fun devices to use, but here they're more than just toys to us. So when we're talking precision agriculture, drones become a very important tool. So even something like the one on the screen there, the Mavic Mini, which is less than 250 grams, so you don't even need a drone pilot certification to fly it. Even that drone can be used as a tool on the smart farm or in research here. So go to the next slide. So we've been using drones in our smart farm operations for 2 years now. And this year we expanded to actually have a bunch of different drones and also different kinds of sensors. So on the screen there's an example. You can see on the left the wetland research that we've been doing into hyper-accumulating plants for cleaning water. Got a drone flying over fields. Then we have an image of some of the processing software that we use to actually process what happens in flight. And then a view of some of our research plots taken from a drone. So depending on what we're trying to do, it's important to use the right drone, the right sensor for the job. So at a basic level, we've got Mavic 2 Pros and Phantoms. These are drones that you can get off the shelf, even at Staples as an example. They're very popular, but we are, again, using them as a tool. So we can fly over a field and point the camera straight down and take lots of pictures and then stitch those together into an aerial map. So you can see a field there kind of in the middle right that's been partially harvested. So we created that mosaic of the field from a drone flight. Just to the left of that, you can see some damage to a crop from heavy rain. So again, we use drones to fly over the field and take regular pictures to see what's going on in the field. The bottom left there, we have an elevation map. So we use that for drainage analysis on fields. And we can also then, from the just from this regular RGB imagery, we can create volumes as well. So our silage pit, some manure piles and that, we can actually calculate volumes quite accurately from that. And then as well, we use it for videos. It might be just for checking on a field, but also, for, let's say, entertainment purposes as well. So there's if you want to press that link, we'll see. So on our Facebook page for Olds College, we have a little video that was taken earlier this summer of some of our pasture land down by Carstairs. Do you want to go to the next slide? So then a drone that is targeted directly to agriculture is the SenseFly EBSQ, and it has what we call a multispectral camera in it. So with that camera, it's looking at wavelengths beyond what we can see with our human eyes. And so that type of image gives us more information than obviously we can just see with the naked eye. So you can see at the bottom left, vegetative health for a field. So that highlights the red spots or areas where the crop isn't growing as well. And so it highlights for us, areas that we then need to send out another drone and check out. So the next image is just showing one of the areas that we flew to see what was going on in that. So from the EB, we get the GPS coordinates for these locations, and then we can fly other drones automatically to them. As well, we can do plant biomass calculations. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in this presentation. So that's the middle image. And then as well, we create the prescription maps for spraying or for spreading. So that's on the right-hand side there at the bottom. We also have one other drone here that is kind of our workhorse, the Matrice M600 Pro. So it is capable of carrying multiple payloads. So we switch different ones on and off that drone and use it for different purposes. So we have a thermal camera that Alex has already alluded to that we use. So from that we can see soil moisture. So in the image at the top right, the cooler colors are where there's higher moisture content. And then we can also look for stress in plants with that camera. So that shows up with thermal. As well, we use what's called LiDAR, which is basically using laser to measure the distance from the drone to the ground. And from that, we can create very accurate elevation maps and actually calculate the height of plants from that. And then we have hyperspectral cameras as well that we've just started experimenting with. So these see beyond the multispectral range to other wavelengths. And from that, we can actually identify some crops and plants. We can look for nutrient deficiencies in plants, and we can detect the water content in the plant canopy of a crop. So we're going to watch a little video here, and I'll narrate what's going on here. So this is one of the test flights that we did this summer with the 600. Underneath there, you can see what's called a headwall photonics camera, and it has two hyperspectral sensors underneath it, plus that round thing on the side there is the LiDAR to actually.
Host would like you to use your microphone. You can press.
Can you hear me now?
So we've got GPS on top
as well to get very accurate locations. We can use the remote control if we need to for manual flight, but for the most part, this thing is flown automatically. We've got a launch pad to keep down the dust when it takes off and lands, and then we also sometimes lay out these ground control targets for more precise GPS locations. So we create the flight plan actually in 3D on a computer, so we can actually follow the terrain if it's hilly or not. And it takes a lot of batteries to run this, so we've got a special battery charger there, and we're just continually recharging batteries. The flight plan is uploaded to the iPad, which then communicates with the drone and sends the whole flight plan to the drone, and we can just launch it then automatically. Don't even have to use the controller, and away it goes into the blue yonder. So in this case, we're flying over a barley field, and again, thanks to Yevgen, he also sent up one of the Mavics at the same time to get overhead video of the Matrice with the head wall. Yeah. So we made sure we didn't collide with each other when we were flying that. So you can see we're flying a pattern over the field, so it just goes back and forth, and then when it runs low on batteries, it automatically comes back and lands. We swap out the batteries for a new set and continue on. So that's one of the limitations of the drones. In this case, the flight time is only 12 minutes, basically, that we had before we had to swap the batteries out. So it is a little bit frustrating. It'd be nice to have longer flight time, but if you've got enough batteries, you just keep swapping them out and flying them, and away it goes. So that's kind of a background on how we're using drones. They are very important tools for us. And so now we're going to talk about how we use the results from those drone flights for a prescription map for spraying purposes.
Yeah, that's great, George. Thanks. Well, of course, drone can take a nice picture, but you have to translate that picture into an actionable information. So with a drone imagery, we can analyze the distribution of green biomass. And in this particular field, you see zones with low vegetation and high vegetation, And for example, when we're planning to spray that field with a fungicide, because of different yield potential and different crop conditions, some of the areas might need a little bit more fungicide, of course, within the label or regulatory requirement. Some areas, they might need no fungicide or a reduced rate. So from either drone imagery or satellite, we can create prescription maps for spraying, and those prescription maps, they're basically tell the DOS platform how to spray the field. So here, this is a prescription map. This is a so-called as applied map that basically shows the actual work done by the DOS sprayer. And there's another video, again, maybe if you need, you can comment during the video, but I think it shows pretty well how the operation is done.
Okay, so I can add some comments. During the season, we were working not only on Old College fields, but also we involved one of our neighbors, Carlson Neck, with over 20,000 acres. So in total, we sprayed probably like 1,500 acres this year. Definitely, you cannot call DOT like a fully autonomy equipment. It's like a semi. So you still have to create the field boundaries, and people need to be engaged, involved into the process. So it's not a fully autonomy yet, but it's on its way. We definitely will cover more acres next year, and in our plan to seed, spray, and spread all our old farmland. So as you can see, I utilize a Trimble desktop software. It's the easiest way to take that image from the drone, a simple RGB camera, create a prescription based on the drone image, and apply with chemicals, apply the RX map with simple chemicals like fungicide, herbicide, and over the next year we will use that for nutrients as well. So this is the last stage we applied with fungicides on a barley field in July. So the working width of the DOT sprayer is 120 feet. DOT feeder is 30 feet, and DOT spreader was around like up to 90 feet. Please turn off the music. Okay, so if you can hear me, you can see how precise DOT is working on the field, and it does utilize the RTK base station signal as a ½ inch. Yeah, so we applied with the two different rates this year, like 5 gallons per acre and 10 gallons per acre. The main tank of the DOT sprayer is 1,600 gallons. It's the biggest on the market. So if you ever seen the self-propelled 400F New Holland sprayer, it has the same tank size. That's it.
And just going back to the satellites and drones, of course, everybody knows that in Alberta it's very rare when we use fertilizer application as top dressing in the middle of the season, most of the fertilizer is applied before the growing season. However, in some cases, in particular in hay fields on a smart farm, we might need to apply nitrogen during the growing season after the first cut time. So the information that helps us to create prescriptions for variable rate fertilizing can come either from satellites or drones. From satellites, of course, the most commonly used satellite for us is Sentinel-2 from the European Space Agency. It has 10-meter spatial resolution. Or we can use drone imagery or UAVs for the same purpose. It's all just a matter of preference. So satellites gives us more scalability, and drones give more flexibility. So one of the projects we're working on is about determining the amount of green biomass in the field. As you probably know, it's a very important operational decision. You need to know during the growing season prior to harvesting how much hay you have in the field, how much green biomass is available in pasture to manage cattle. So first thing we did, we estimated the amount of green biomass using drone imagery and ground sampling. Unfortunately, neither drone imagery nor satellite data can tell us exactly how many tons per hectare or bushels per acre or pounds per acre of either grain or green biomass we have in the field. So we have to create a biomass map, and then in those zones with black dots, we collected ground samples. And then we're able to predict how much biomass was in the field prior to harvesting. And then also based on the same imagery, we created a variable rate application map for the same field to apply nitrogen using variable rate technology. So in that particular case, there were 2 rates applied, 150 pounds per acre of, I think that was urea, and 75 pounds per acre. So, that's another video just showing how the fertilizer spreader is working.
All right, so here's the time for a dot spreader. Actually, it's a US spreader from New Leader. We applied the nitrogen granules with the 2 different rates, 150 and 75 pounds per acre, based on the drone images that I collected early, probably a few days before we go. So what I'm heading to, you actually spend probably like 15-20 minutes flying your drone about the field, stitching those 500 images in one map, and then transfer that to a Trimble desktop software. Then you create a prescription map based on your background image, which came from a drone, and build that prescription for 2 different rates. It's easy peasy. That's why we are here. We are creating these courses for our students, and we're gonna teach them how to spend probably like 1.5 hours to create a prescription based on the drone and utilize the autonomous spreader for this purpose. So DOT worked really good this year. Somewhere we got stuck with the dots. Somewhere it's gonna be everything shown in our DOT course. So here's like I just mentioned before, here we have our drone image, drone map, and you can create a that prescription file and just go and apply to different rates. This is the most important, that the spreader can work with a 16 section control system that can spread, can vary, can work with a prescription file, so it can spread differentially.
16 virtuals.
Virtuals, yeah, 16 virtual sections. Thanks. Like an average speed we utilize was around like 6 or 7 miles per hour. We could drive faster, like up to 10, but there was no need for this. All you need is just need to find a good spot, probably like a hill on the field, in order to better see the dots, because you need to be connected to the dots like between your remote control joystick and the dot itself. So this is probably the most tricky like a part of this work. Here we spread it. It was not fertilizers. It was oats. Yeah, it was oats. Yeah, so the dot spreader can spread not only fertilizers.
Awesome. Great video. Unfortunately, the time is quite short, and we don't have enough time to share pretty much everything we do. But just before we'll wrap it up, I just want to share some information about the drone club that was created at the college. Unfortunately, it's not fully functioning this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But because sometimes drone technology can be different, sometimes it can be so easy. One day I brought my 16-year-old son to the smart farm, and he's not a licensed drone pilot. He uses his DJI Mavic Mini drone, which doesn't require a license. Like Evgen and George, they're licensed pilots. I'm not, and my son is not as well. So I just gave him several tasks, how to utilize a drone. So his task was to fly to the field, go to check the status of field sensor, then take a picture of a flue and check the status of crop in the low wet area, check lodging, and check some tracks in the field. So I'm just trying to initiate that video, and okay, it's right here. So very simple. Like, he was given a land location where the sensors are, and he just flew over there and told me within 2 seconds that all my sensors, they're okay. So if I wanted to do it physically, it would have taken about half an hour to get there and back. Then he took a picture of low wet spot. He took a picture of lodging for me, and he took a picture of tracks left by dot and the track when they were leaving the field. So that's a very small piece of information, and just a small chunk of huge cool work that we're doing here that we would like to share with you. So thanks, and if you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer.
Okay, I'm going to take back over the screen here.
We already have one question for you. So, Ina wanted to know what differentiates the usage of a quad rotor from a fixed wing platform? And do they offer similar functionalities or completely different?
They do offer some similar and then some completely different. So for example, with a fixed wing, you can't hover with it. It flies like an airplane. And so we use it to, if we know that we're going to just do a continuous flight over a field and it's quite a large field, it's a better tool to use because it uses less battery as well. So it can stay up much longer than either a quad or a hexcopter. But then if we need to actually hover over a site and look at something more closely, then that's when we would switch to a multi-rotor. As well, if we're carrying a heavier payload, so that one camera that I showed you in the video, that's a fairly heavy one, and so it requires the hexcopter to actually be able to lift it and fly with it.
Okay, thank you. So, are there any better batteries for this purposes, or is that the maximum flight time that can be expected for the next while?
For right now, you know, pretty much any drone you would buy now is using the best battery technology that we have at this time, and a lot of the flight time of a battery depends on the weight of the payload or the camera that you're carrying, as well as weather conditions. So if it's windy, the drone has to work harder, and so your flight time is going to be less then. So the best thing I can say is have lots of batteries and be able to keep them recharged and switch them out as needed.
Right. Yeah, that looked like a lot of work, actually. Although I loved the video of the drone following the drone, so we could see what was happening.
Yeah, Yevgen did a very good job on that.
Yeah. So somebody says, really interesting stuff. Thank you for sharing. And she's curious if you have any industry partners, or how you can anticipate the technologies you're developing will be deployed at a larger scale.
Yeah, definitely. And well, of course, as you've seen from the video, Dot and Raven, this is one of the partners. Of course, the level of complexity in the industry is still high right now, so we have to partner with different companies by their nature, by the nature of the industry. So we have a partnership with a number of companies. You can check the full list on the Smart Farm website or on the college website, and we're definitely open to collaboration with the new partners. So if you want, we can take that discussion offline. We can discuss the partnership in more detail offline, because it's a huge topic. The short answer, yes, we're collaborating with many different partners.
Right. And can satellite and drone imagery be used for crop disease detection and management with leafy diseases?
That's a great question, and that's probably one of my favorites. So the technical answer is drone imagery can definitely be used for detecting certain diseases. Operationally, when you can see diseases from satellites or even from drones, unfortunately, too late to respond. Like I keep telling that joke to everybody, the best thing you can do, you can write a nice letter of condolences to the grower saying, dear sir, we can see a disease from the air, so that means your crop is dead. For detection of diseases, I strongly believe in predictive analytics, like in most cases. There are some minor exceptions, but for the most part, you would prefer disease prevention rather than curation.
Right. So what type of background is required to deploy drones in the field?
That would depend on the country that you're at. Here in Canada, you have to pass a certification exam. So there's quite a few different places where you can get training. And then myself, I have a GIS background, so like Alex alluded to, it's not, you know, it's not enough to just be able to get a bunch of pretty pictures. You have to be able to actually work with and process them and analyze and interpret them. So I think that's one of the things that you know, we've really learned here is that a lot of people get excited about the technology, but you have to be able to actually interpret what information is being given to you and then make actionable decisions from that.
Yeah, it needs to be useful technology. So, and how can Canadian farmers use the technology to have a competitive advantage?
Oh, that's such an extensive question. There is no simple answer. Of course, there are many discussions that very soon technology will replace agronomists and engineers. Don't worry, guys. It's not going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years. The agricultural industry is so complex that will always require boots on the ground. However, we strongly believe in technology, empowering agronomists, empowering field engineers, empowering farmers to help them to make better decisions or to make their operations more efficient. So like variable rate application of fertilizer or crop protection products is one of the examples. If you spend less fertilizer or less crop protection to produce one production unit or 1 bushel of grain or 1 bushel of canola crop, of course it's going to be a competitive advantage.
Right. And how often are you seeing this type of technology being adopted on farms in Alberta? Do you know that?
Well, several agronomy companies are definitely employing drones in their work, as well as there's several service businesses that deal directly with farmers just to provide them with the imagery and that. Again, the important part is to actually be able to interpret and make decisions based on what you see. So, you know, some farmers get really excited and hire somebody to go fly their field, but then what do you do with the data? You've got to be able to interpret it and then put it into something like a variable rate sprayer so that you're actually taking advantage of what the information is telling you.
And maybe, again, can you comment how many people use autonomous equipment with Canada? Do you have that information?
Actually, yeah, probably like around 5 or 7 people. They purchased the DOT platform, but not like full amount of implements. So like Old College is the first institution in the world and actually the customer that bought 3 implements at once, like sprayer, spreader, and the seeder. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, great, thanks. So it shows, first of all, how challenging this pathway is, and it will take a while to digitalize and automate different operations in agriculture. But at the same time, I think we're in the right spot. We're in the very beginning of that.
Right.
And I just want to make sure we're not missing the excellent question about the clap route, because that was the one before.
Yeah, no, we'll, I was just gonna hop back. I thought and so can you use this kind of precision technology in the detection and management of root diseases?
Yeah, and that's one of the questions where drone technology can definitely be used to detect problematic spots. Because clap root, well, of course, you all know it's a major growing problem in canola crop here. The main challenge right now is not to identify the problematic spot in the field. The main challenge is to tell exactly, okay, whether it's clap root or not. So we're considering using hyperspectral imagery for that. and it's one of the ongoing projects here to see if there is any spectral difference between areas affected by clubroot and not affected. So that's an excellent question, and it's one of those cases when you can actually utilize drone technology for sure.
Okay, so I think we'll do this last question and then we'll go into the breakout rooms for a little more one-on-one discussion. And so do you know of an organization that can help coordinate multiple landowners to benefit from working together for low-cost data acquisition?
It is, you know, very much still an emerging technology, and so there's not a huge buy into it, I guess. But I would suggest maybe approaching some of the different associations, like the pulse growers or something like that, and trying to go through an association like that that knows which farmers are growing what and where, and then plan that way. That off the top of my head, that's what came to mind.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be different types of custom work can be done by agri-retailer or by insurance companies, by I don't know, large agronomy companies. So whoever can aggregate that customer information and place a larger order for UAV imagery. Right.
Well, because as you've shown us, a large and complicated thing to work all the technology together for to have it work the best. So, so thank you, and thank everybody. Thank you for joining us. And I think now Shannon and Chris are going to have us into the breakout rooms. So.
That's right. So you should now see an option to join a breakout room on your screen. So please just go in there and we'll have some hosts. It's a good opportunity to do some networking, talk about some things that you thought about during the presentation. And you should be seeing that now.